Hi guys, it is Julia
and Kitty Cat, and today we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hi, I'm Reggie with Valkyrie Design LLC.
Awesome. And Reggie, what do you do in the sexy world? What is your
in the sexy world? We like to do a lot of costuming for people. We make handcrafted, handmade chainmail jewelry, clothing, and costuming. But ours is really unique because it's out of anodized aluminum and rubber. So instead of being really heavy and scratchy and uncomfortable, ours weighs as much as a t-shirt and feels amazing on.
Wow, how did you discover that blend?
You know, when I first started 13 years ago, when we got into doing this, I went online and started looking at what everybody else was doing, and nobody else was doing it this way. And I wanted to be unique and different. So we started playing with it, and it got a lot of great response back from customers, and just kind of went crazy with it.
And are you a metal worker by trade, or was it that you were into kink and then decided to explore the world of?
You know, it's a funny story. I was in law enforcement actually for a long time, and had lost all of my patience with life and the world and everything around it. And when I got into the kink world, my wife and I decided to become poly. And so when we found our first poly partner, we dove into kink in general, into BDSM, polyamory, power exchange all at the same time. And as I was getting to learn our new partner, and we got to know each other, she had used to take exchange students to a jewelry making class and learn chainmail. And so she had told me about it, and I'm an old D&D kid from the 80s. So like, oh, chainmail, I've got to try this. And so I had to go on a trip the next week. So I took her book and her material she had, and I taught myself everything in the book that week while I was gone, and came back and was like, well, we've either got to get more friends to give things away to, get a bigger house to store it in, or start a business. And we started a business. And we're very lucky that the kink and sex industry have been very kind to us.
What's the #1 product that people come and look for at your company?
For ours, it's the tops. It's the costuming. I can show you an example of the type of one of our most popular pieces.
That'd be great. Thank you.
It's a piece like this, where we can do, I don't know if you can kind of see it. It's a nice halter top.
Yeah.
They're open on the back, so they're very lightweight, and they just move really well with you. And we can do all kinds of neat stuff with the inlays. We do a lot of cosplay costuming pieces. Like we do Harley Quinn. Would look much better on a mannequin or something, but kind of gives you an example. But these weigh as much as a t-shirt, and they don't catch your hair, they don't catch your clothes, they don't scratch you, because the rubber makes it very soft against your skin. And because they're out of the aluminum, it doesn't matter if you're wearing it at the club, if you're doing it on a photo shoot, or if you're at the beach, it doesn't get hot and burn you as long as you're wearing it. It's aluminum, so it translates heat really well.
So, so is it aluminum wrapped with rubber, or vice versa, or is it a combination of the two products?
It's a combination of the two. I don't know if you can see it very well here. The little rings are rubber. The big rings are anodized aluminum.
Okay.
The little rubber rings attach everything and give it that soft layer that's against your skin. And it makes it really versatile, because then it moves as you dance, or if you move, it moves with you, and makes this a really nice, sexy look to the pieces. And like I said, we've been very lucky with it. We've gotten to be on a couple TV and movies with costuming.
What movies and TV shows has your?
We were on Gotham, the Gotham television show, on this CW. Season 1, season finale. Selena Kyle's character wears one of our ribbon tops in the season finale. It was awesome. We did WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. That was a big pay-per-view thing. Triple H had his big theatrical entrance, and the 3 ladies that take his helmet off are all wearing our pieces. And we did another one called Gothic Harvest, where we got to do some costuming pieces in it. That was filmed here locally in New Orleans.
Nice.
And is most of your business, is it direct to customer, or is it wholesale, direct to boutiques?
I do both, actually.
Okay.
And the majority of our business is at trade shows, where people can come and touch it and feel it. We're online. I just haven't had as much success with marketing with that as I wish. I'm great at making stuff. I'm just not as great at the marketing part online. But when people can touch it and feel it, it's amazing. Guilty Pleasures stores in Florida and South Carolina both carry our product. And a store in Dallas carries our stuff, wholesale. And we're always happy to do wholesale all over. We've done 45 stores and museums around the country over the years.
You say museums. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually were in the Philadelphia Museum of Art for a while with the Van Gogh exhibit. They had us make a bunch of jewelry using Van Gogh's color palette. And it was an amazing experience for us because it's something very, art related that we could kind of be associated tangentially with. So they carried our jewelry in their gift shop with their promotion. That was a couple years ago.
Nice.
So you do so how much of your business is based in the kink world and how much of it is based in the vanilla world?
It's funny, it's alternated over the years. Right now, about 80% of it is in the kink and adult world.
Okay.
We used to do a lot of rock concerts, the world's loudest month, 3-day concerts in a row for 5 weeks all over the country. We used to travel with that and do that all over the country, and that was really fun. We used to do a bunch of Renaissance festivals and Pride festivals and things. But with the current situation of the world, it's kind of changed. But we have found that the adult industry, avian, exoticas, swinger events, nudist events of all things like it's funny. We started doing a bunch of nudist events, and I'm thinking, why would they want us to be at this? It's going to be crazy. But they like to dress up, but not cover everything up, and our stuff is perfect for that. We do a lot of body chains, things like things like these that are very fun that they can do. It's got a lot of crystals and bling.
I know, right? I really like that.
Yeah, it's fun. And we can do everything from very simple body chains to whole dresses that are body chains to just about anything.
So for something like that, what would be the price point?
For the one I just showed you is $100.
Okay. And
that actually seems very reasonable.
Yeah.
We try to stay very price conscious, so I want everybody to be able to enjoy our products. So we don't really charge what the labor would be worth.
What is the range usually? Like,
we have everything from $10 earrings up to $1,000 dress and everything in between. But the majority of our pieces are anywhere from, if it's jewelry, anywhere from $20 to $50, and for the clothing is generally $100 to $150 for most pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's a larger piece, and of course it's going to be more because it's more time and material. It's not like a T-shirt where you just make it a little bit bigger and add a little extra material. It's actually quite a bit more work. But we do have pieces for all body shapes and sizes. We want everyone to feel sexy and look sexy and feel good about themselves. That's one of the big things for our company is to help women feel as good on the inside as they look on the outside.
Nice.
I love that.
That's a good goal.
So we try for it, and it's just amazing to see, especially at the shows when you have someone who comes up that's very, very timid or very shy, very self-conscious about their body, and you can get them to try a piece on, and just to see them blossom into themselves is just amazing to watch. So that's been something we've really enjoyed.
Now, you say is your wife a part of your business with you, or who does this with you?
Like I said, it's funny because what you mentioned about the kink world earlier, we got into polyamory, and that's how we got these started. These and the novels that we've written, we've all because we've become poly. Over the years, I've unfortunately gone back to being single, but originally it was my wife and 2 partners. So there were 4 of us originally. Now it's just me. My one partner, my writing partner, still helps me with a lot of the construction, though. She's amazing.
And you said you write novels too?
Yeah, we've got 12 published novels so far. We've just pulled a bunch of them from the shelves because we're going through a rebranding with a new pen name and new covers and new titles and everything. But yeah, we've got 12 novels out so far. 8 of them through publishing houses and 4 of them that we've self-pubbed.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're all erotic romance.
I was going to say, are they erotic novels?
Oh, yeah. They're
all
all very authentic BDSM, polyamory, power exchange, happy ever after romance. And we tried to make ours a lot more realistic because we see all the fantasy BDSM, which is great, but it's really different from what people really do and why they do it. And in our first 12 novels, we spent a lot of time doing education, trying to have the characters educate people as to the thoughts and feelings and motivations behind BDSM or polyamory or power exchange, as to why somebody would want to do it and why it's a valid dynamic.
Now, the phrase power exchange, can you explain that a little bit more? Is that
Sure.
just like subdom and switch?
Yes. Yeah, that kind of thing is submissive, dominant, master slave, play partners, whatever terms people like to identify with. And it's where we used it to build our businesses, especially the writing. When Cassie was my primary submissive for a very long time, for about 10 years. And when we first got together, we spent a great deal of time discussing her goals in life and my goals in life and what we could do together. And she'd always wanted to be a published author, and so did I. So I would eventually, as her dominant, I would set up a writing schedule for her and expect a certain number of words a day or a week. In the beginning, it was in a week, 1,000 words in a week. And then she would get it to me, and I would review it, and I would edit it, and then we'd go out, and we had a Great Dane at the time, so we would take and walk the Great Dane every night and brainstorm the next set of scenes. And she would write some, and I would write some, and then we'd swap them. And so we ended up co-writing the first novel, and we found out that we really enjoyed it. So we just kept going. We've been doing it since 2009.
Nice. I mean, I'm not in a power exchange situation, but I do have a couple writing partners. And I actually think that sometimes that would be the most ideal of situations where one has to submit to the other one. Because
it helped a lot.
Yeah, because there's always this weird power dichotomy that it's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it if you tell me to do it. So
Right. And there's a lot of ego that comes into with writing partners a lot of times, where this does set the ego aside and just focus on the writing. And it made us both better. And so we were able to accomplish life goals by using power exchange. So, yeah, we thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's are your novels like one-off novels, or are they like a series?
No, we've got the Keyhole series with Omnific Publishing, which is 3 books, and that's 1 male character and 2 female characters. And then we've got the Clifftop series, which we've just got the rights back to, so we're getting new covers on them, and we're rebranding those. And there's 5 in that series, and that's with 1 woman and 2 men. And then we've got an entirely new series that nobody's even seen yet, but we've got the first 2 written and ready to go that are 2 men and 1 woman, and they're with a police special forces task force kind of thing. So they're a lot of fun. And then we've got we're getting to do shorter books. Those are all full-length novels, 80 to 100,000 word novels. Mm-hmm. And we've been having a lot of people after us to start doing a lot of shorter work so we can put them out a lot faster. So we're getting ready to start doing that with mostly just male-female romance, but maybe about 20,000 words or so.
Is your tone different when it is the male-female versus the female-male story?
I think we've got the same kind of voice through all of the series.
Okay.
And I think that's because Cassie and I both write the books, and then she blends it into a single voice. No matter which one of us writes the scenes, we both edit it, and then we edit the Jesus out of them. So we'd like to think that they're really good. But we have found that it kind of gives us a nice, consistent voice, regardless of what the characters are.
And do you, because truthfully, I have not read a lot of erotic novels, but I find that in writing, if you write about the same thing over and over again, you feel like you keep using the same metaphors, where you're like, oh, I'm going to use this metaphor here. And with erotic writing, you're doing a lot of metaphors some of the time in regards to the sexual nature of it. Do you you're like, oh no, we've used this one too many times, or is it do you have a running list of them? Or
we try and be very conscious of what we've done in the past to keep it fresh and new.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a smart aleck, so I like to put in funny scenes too. And so that's easier to keep them separate because you're doing funny. I think they're funny things. I hope that you like them.
Interesting. I like it.
So if people, when I know you said they're not out yet, but if people wanted to find these, are you going to make them available on your website? Are they going to be available on Amazon? Are you still figuring that out?
Yep, no, they'll be available on Amazon. The older versions still are available on Amazon, or through Simon and Schuster for the Keyhole books.
I mean, Simon and Schuster is like a real publishing house. That's pretty amazing. Like,
yeah, it's we were actually with Omnific Publishing, and they got bought up by Simon and Schuster, so they're like a subset of Simon and Schuster. But yeah, we're still with the big dogs, so it's kind of cool.
I was gonna ask, is Omnific considered the like the sexy imprint of Simon and Schuster at this point?
I believe it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all romance novel or romance authors in Omnific, and they were the ones that gave us our initial break. So we're very grateful to them.
Nice.
Yeah.
And where are you based? Like, where in the country are you located right now?
Right now, we're just outside New Orleans, but we're getting ready to move in a few weeks to Sarasota, Florida. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm in Florida at the moment, so.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about it with all the.
I was about to say, I didn't want to say it, but.
But we've been in New Orleans the whole time, so they haven't been a whole lot better. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is just not to go out. Like, you're fine as long as you don't leave your house.
Yeah, it makes it a big part of it, and that's made it tough though, because all of the shows that we normally do with Valkyrie have been canceled for the year. They're just now finally starting to get going again. We've got one in September in Houston. It's gonna be the second show of the year. Normally, I do, depending on the year, anywhere from 20 to 40 shows a year. And this year we've done AVN, and that was it.
We've heard from some kink designers that they've seen an uptick on their online sales during this time because people are at home playing. Have you seen any of that in your business?
We've seen a small amount of it, yes. Unfortunately, with our stuff, it's easier for people to fall in love with it when they touch it.
Yeah.
Conceived notions, when you hear chainmail, you think the knights, and you think it's going to weigh 40 pounds and it's going to lug you down. And then once they feel ours and put it on, it makes a world of difference. Because they're like really comfortable. It's really sexy. It flatters my form. And
yeah. Do you do a lot of like the cosplay events too? Because I feel like there'd be crossover with.
There is a lot of crossover. I haven't done any cosplay conventions, but we had a lot of cosplay customers.
Yeah.
That we see at other events. We used to do a lot of the Comic-Cons and things of that nature, but. You know, they kind of became cost prohibitive to do them, so we stopped doing them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, like one of the big things I find with cosplay is like people want a costume that looks authentic but is durable enough to wear for the day.
Right.
It's not heavy. So that's why they build all these things out of foam or like 3D printing. So it's like.
And if you look on our website, sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I feel like your product would be ideal for that group of people. Yeah,
like I said, we do a whole line of superhero tops. Sure, Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn, I showed you, X-Men symbol. We've got just the unicorn, and we've got a Playboy bunny inlay that's just I was pretty proud of. So, and we do a lot of stuff for the cosplay community. And we do a lot for the Pride community too. And we do a lot of stuff in Pride colors, like, you know, they're very bright. Mm-hmm. Let's see if I can display this against the darker thing when it shows up a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rainbows and stuff.
Yeah.
And the colors on these rings just pops. It's really, really impressive looking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how so much of your orders are going to be tied to special events and people going to special events themselves.
Yeah.
It's not only you're not getting the orders at the events, people who know about your product and would normally order it aren't ordering it because they're not going out to Pride.
Because they're not going out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
a lot of ours, like I say, a lot of
go
our
ahead.
Specialty events too, you know, like Burning Man and Fantasy Fest, Street Festival, and, you know, those types of things where people go intentionally to dress up and be seen. And a lot of those aren't happening right now. It makes it a little challenging.
Yeah. Well, if our supporters want to find you online and check out your stuff and order it for themselves, where can they do that?
We're online at, actually, I did this for you, make it a little easier. I don't know if that works.
Yeah, if you just hold it up to the camera, that works.
Valkyrie Design, LLC.com. And that's it's also the same for our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's all Valkyrie Design LLC.
Perfect. That sounds great. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today about your business and your erotic novels. It was all fascinating.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. And I am going to check out your stuff. I think it sounds awesome.
Please
And
do.
next time at a booth I see you, I'm definitely going to get there and feel it.
Definitely. Yeah, we're always at AVN every year, and a lot of the other festivals. We're always happy to do custom work as well. So if you see something online that it's not the right color, just let me know what color you want it, or what pattern, or if it's a superhero inlay or anything else. We're always happy to do that. Or if you have a new design, that's where a lot of these things come from. People,
Perfect.
oh, can you do this? They're like, well, of course I can. And then they leave like, okay, now how do I do that? But we always make it work.
Great. Well, thank you, Reggie. We appreciate it. It was nice talking to you. And
Well, it's a
until
pleasure,
our
ladies.
paths
Thank you so
cross
much.
again. Yep.
Yes,
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Well, that was interesting. I never even thought that. I mean, I guess I should know chainmail would be heavy because it's what they used in the Middle Ages to like protect themselves. But I never
Some
thought.
swords.
Yes. Okay. So truth be told, I have an ex who made an entire chainmail suit of armor when he was unemployed once to keep himself busy.
Wait, but so like a link,
Chainmail, like link by link.
link by
link.
linking them together.
Yes.
Oh well, I mean, that's okay. I personally just finished the Vampire Diaries today and did the math on it, and I watched 144 hours of the Vampire Diaries to go through all 8 seasons of it. So we all need our thing to distract us, I guess.
Yeah. It's okay, and I feel that way whenever I get done with a series that's like 10 seasons long. I'm like, ooh,
Oh, so long. Yeah.
so long. I really invested some time in those characters. Like,
Yeah. And like with the Vampire Diaries, my dad keeps joking because he's like, well, there's 2 spin-offs. Are you going to watch those right away? I'm like, no, I'm going to take a break. I need a break from the CW.
I need a break. I can't do it anymore. So what's funny is like, I kind of make fun of the CW in my head. I like think of it, I guess, as almost like a subpar network in a way.
Oh,
but then
so
but I enjoy most of their shows. So then I'm like, are you being judgmental, Julia? Because like you really like this stuff, It's like it's kind of like how Bravo, is like not like a great news channel, but I love it.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, I mean, you kind of have to. At some point, I was just like, I'm going all in because like I was like, this is a supernatural soap opera that after a while stops making sense because there's so many twists and turns that like people would say stuff and it would be like they would like rattle off all the things they had, the amount of times they'd killed somebody, but then not killed them because they're supernatural, so they all come back to life. And I was like,
of course
this
they
is
do.
great. This is like the most fun, mindless thing that was like fantastic about quarantine, because I was like, you know what? I never thought I would probably watch this show, and I did. And it's like, it reminded me so much of my childhood of watching 90210, except with supernatural characters. Like I swear to God, like the main character was like Jason Priestley, who was, and like Dylan McKay of like 90210. And I was like, this is great.
You're like, I'm in. I'm sold. Let's do it. 144 hours later, you have reached the end.
I have reached the end.
I am proud of you.
I know. The other funny thing is that I literally just watched the Wizarding World Zoom chat that they did a couple months ago, which was like speaking of like Comic Cons being closed, when they have the fan conventions, they did one online, and I was like, and they had like the free Zoom of like all the characters afterwards, where like they talked about them, and I was like, hi, I'm like 12-year-old fangirl watching it, which was a lot of fun too. So I recommend it. But like we all need our distractions during quarantine, or if you're laying low still or not. Which
I'll give you.
Yes, go
ahead. I was
ahead.
going to say, I'll give you another good supernatural distraction if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
The new Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, I've heard that one was good.
It is dark and it is good. Though
it's nothing almost, like the other one, right?
It's it's almost not appropriate for, I would say, under like 13, 14. Like if you're really not comfortable talking to your kids about sex, don't let them watch this show, because these teenagers are boning each other. And it's interesting because it's the freedom in which these are essentially teens are having sex, and these writers are writing it. It almost seems like irresponsible in a way, but at the same time, it's realistic. So you're like,
I have to say, like with the Vampire Diaries, like the show started, everybody who was like 25, like in real life, was playing, like their sophomore year of college, right? So they're like 15 years old. Every single, like they were all down with drinking there was like one bar, which was like the watering hole, but they would all order drinks there. Like, and they're like 15, 16. And I'm like, dude, is nobody in this little tiny town of Mystic Falls getting carded? Like, everybody knows how old people are because it's a tiny town. You keep saying this. Like, I was like, it's like one of those things where they're like, forget it. We're not even going to worry about that. Like,
just suspend disbelief. You're watching a TV show. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Right. And, like, I remember when Sex and the City came out, and I was like, who actually has sex as often as these women do? Like, that was.
And then you became a woman in your 30s, and you were like, oh, all women in their 30s.
Right. Oh my God. It's so funny. So my dad, who I'm staying with here in Florida, his wife passed away last year, and they were married for 35 years, and he's in the middle of dating for the first time in 35 years. So we have very funny conversations. Like the other night I had one, and I was like, we were talking about like when a girl puts out in terms of having, like, I'm like, well, kind of the standard is like maybe the third date. Yeah.
I would say the standard's probably like the second date. Like you hold off on the first date. And then, like, if they stick around for a second, that's like an 8th date in olden days. Like, to get a guy to a second date is like magic.
I was talking to my sister about it after the fact. She's like, it always seems to be an odd number. It's either 3 or 5. Like, that's when you're like, okay, this is it. So.
Yeah. Well, it's, your dad will have to navigate those waters on his own.
He does.
And the thing about COVID that makes it interesting is not only are you, by having sex, exposing yourself to all the traditional STDs that we all know we're exposing ourselves to, even with protection, right?
Right.
You're also exposing yourself now to COVID, which is like a whole nother thing,
Yeah. It's like on Seinfeld, when it came out, there was this point where Elaine, her favorite form of contraceptive was discontinued, which was the sponge. And then there was this whole episode of whether or not people were sponge worthy because she only had so many sponges left. And I feel like it's sometimes kind of like that with COVID. You're like, oh, I don't know. Like, you seem nice in real life. You seem nice in the virtual world. But I don't know if I'm willing to commit to you having like one-on-one space. But eventually you have to, because you want to get laid. You want to like actually have the benefit of the relationship, which is like holding hands and like cuddling and touching and boning and.
Everyone has to make their COVID choices for themselves, but we were at one of my jobs that's like medically related. They were had an epidemiologist like talking about how long, and they're thinking it'll be about 2 years before we get to stop wearing masks, and because even once the vaccine gets out, it won't be widely distributed, and yada 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 yada. So they're thinking about 2 years, we get life back to normal. Cool. So we are all going to be making choices in those 2 years because there's no way we can stay locked in our houses for 2 years.
Yeah.
So there's just choices that have to be made. And, if you are, for instance, we're talking about opening up our events and we're like, well, we're going to go with a stricter policy and be okay if some of our supporters think it's overkill. Because the truth is, our performers are we're the people going state to state. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're making them wear masks in the car when they get out and all these things, because it just seems like, why wouldn't we? Like, why wouldn't we just be cautious? If this is going to be the next 2 years, let's just develop some like overly cautious protocol and just do it.
Right. Yeah. And,
but anytime you touch somebody or hug somebody or do anything, you are
6 feet of somebody.
You're risking it. And, our performers, we're going to be like changing up, a lot of the choreography. So the people who aren't in the same states and things aren't going to be near each other. It's a whole thing, but it's going to be our new normal. And I bet at the end of this, we're all going to be so used to it. We almost won't even notice anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like anything else. Once you like set a habit in, then you're good. But it's like, you just have to go through the habits of like whatever is necessary for safety, and be okay with that, because you're doing something for the greater good. That's whatever that is. Like, your level of comfort and their level of comfort, and you just have to meet in the middle. Which is why I think like it's like anything, it's all about communication. It's like your standard of what your show's going to be is going to have these restrictions. And if people are pissed off about that, that's okay, because that's their right to communicate. And you're like, okay, this is fine. Just don't come to my event. Like, I have given you my standards. If my standards don't fall into your standards, then we don't hang,
Exactly. Like, I get it. Your state doesn't require masks. That's cool. But like, we're requiring them. We all are just trying to do the best we can. And Vegas has been opening up and our numbers haven't been doing good. Florida's been opening up. Their numbers haven't been doing good. Texas opened everything up and then closed down half the things. LA.
California closed down their bars.
Yeah. It's basically because it's like you people can't be trusted with them. Granted, the only place I've been since this started where I felt it was like a total disregard was a bar. I didn't even, and I decided to leave because I was like, I don't understand how people are like, how are all of you not concerned about this? You know what I mean? Like, it didn't make sense to me.
But that's the nature of consuming alcohol, is that, we all know that alcohol lowers people's inhibitions. So like,
exactly,
the question on whether that mask might have been important before you had like 3 martinis at the bar, but somewhere along like the 1.5 in, when nobody else was wearing a mask, you were like, fuck it. Because we have a tendency to pick up whatever habits we're surrounded by. That's why they say, you should hang out with the really rich people, because like you are an amalgamation of your 5 closest friends. Like, if you want to be a millionaire, hang out with millionaires. But it's true for anything. So it's like the mask thing a lot of times is like, we're social animals. So we take our cues off of somebody else. And like, this is like, overall, I think the thing with COVID is you have to figure out what, like anything, especially relationships, you figure out what your standards are and you stick to them.
Amen. Yes.
Boom.
I was reading my my Science of Mind book that I read, and that was kind of the topic today. Was like, they were like, okay, so like if you know what you want, like you're gonna get it. But if you're unclear, the only thing you should be asking for is clarity.
Right.
Like, because they're like, if you're not clear, you're just not going to get there in any part of your life.
Right. And I will say, go ahead.
No, I was like, you might get lucky and stumble into something decent, but
and the thing is that like people respect, we're also worried about what other people think about us, but like people respect you when you get really clear on who you are and what you want and can communicate it effectively. Because like the difference between dating someone who's like wishy-washy and cannot answer a question when you ask them what you want, and they're like, you ask them what they want and they freak out, and you're like, dude, I'm just asking you because I want to make sure we're on the same page. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But speaking of, you found a really interesting article this week that talks about asexuality?
I did. Yes. And I will tell you that the reason I started looking into this was because of another article we're going to talk about, which is the funny article about pride. And they kept talking about ACE. And I'm like, what the fuck is an ACE? Because I never know the acronyms. Like I'm always, and I was like, they're like ACE girls. I'm like, who are ACE girls? Are they like visco girls? Like, you know, they're not. They're asexual girls. Like they have a whole nickname. So then I went into this rabbit hole of like, you know, I found an article, Am I an Ace? And it's a question of like, what is asexuality? You know, how can you figure out if you are asexual versus being a sexual being? And like, know that like, you can pretty much do anything on the list and still be asexual. You can have sex and still figure out that you're asexual, you know, because you're just exploring it and wondering what the biological function of sex is. That's kind of the way I take the gist of it. They like all the relationship stuff in it, but not always the sexuality aspects of it.
Correct. So the definition from this website, which is what is asexuality.com, says that when someone's asexual or ace, she or he, I guess, is not really into anyone in a sexual way. They simply do not experience sexual attraction. And then they kind of break down like, what if I've had this? What if I've had this? Would I still be considered asexual? You know, you can be asexual if you think people are good looking. You can be sexual if you want to date people. You can be asexual if you want to kiss people.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Like me, for example, I am not asexual, but I am, and I'm not attracted to females, but like, I think female bodies are so much better looking than male bodies. Like, I think a naked woman is gorgeous. And like, but that's a beauty aspect versus me being sexually attracted to women. And it's one of those things where it's like, the gist of the article more than anything else is like, hey, you're not broken. You're not alone. This is if this is your thing, that's okay. You know? And as we get more acronyms into the world of, you know, LGBTQ, you said they added an A.
It's really long now and I don't want to say it wrong because I'm afraid of offending people, but there's an A and a plus at the end now. And I believe it's
plus mean.
I think that's like everything else.
So it's like infinity. It's like,
I think it's LGBTQA plus.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. Right. There might be some other letters in there that I'm forgetting.
And if we are forgetting these letters, it is not because we don't believe that your sexual orientation is not awesome. It's awesome. It's just, you know.
The acronym is hard to keep up with.
Right. And truthfully, all of these categorizations of sexuality are hard to keep track with. For someone my age, let alone trying to explain it to someone like my mother, who's a generation behind.
Because there's pan, there's demi, there's lots of levels that, you know, we have friends who are in that range. Right. And so we've had conversations about it, but people of a different generation, it is a very foreign concept. So, I mean, I would encourage people that choose to live like an honest and open life and have discovered these things about themselves to be kind to people who are trying to learn the correct verbiage.
And I think also it's all of these things are just descriptors to explain to somebody else how you define the world as a person, right? Like, you know, if I'm to say I'm a straight white girl, not white, well, but like a straight girl, like, you know, they figured out where I fit in, you know, this aspect of the world. But like, people also change, you know? Like, people evolve over time and your sexuality is expanding like everything else. So it's interesting to explore aspects because like when you look at something, I think you get as much from relating it to it, not relating to it as relating to it. Whereas like you look at that and you're like, oh, that's something that somebody's into. It's not what I'm into, but it is something that exists out there.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, I definitely don't identify as an asexual person. I very much like sex. I like relationship energy. I like new relationship energy. I like all that sexy vibe. So it's a concept that I admittedly have a hard time understanding how that's a preference, but I totally respect that it is. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, of course, like my body isn't built that way. So I don't quite get it, because to me, I would feel like I'm missing out on such a big part of who I am.
Right.
But I guess for them, it's such a big part of who they are to like not express it. It's an equally strong expression to choose to be asexual.
And so one of the people I study with spiritually was talking about relationships, and he's like, the only reason you want a relationship is because you believe that you should want a relationship, right? Like, because you grew up thinking that a relationship was a good thing because of the constructs, but they're just constructs. Like, there are people who are like, I don't need a relationship because like I don't need that in any way. It's just a question of whether or not you're believing it would augment your life. Because really, anytime we're in a relationship if we're playing with our highest self to want to be a better person, right?
Correct.
Correct. So,
well, we love all relationships here at Workin The Tease. We kind of just love love who you love. But Kat found this really, I'm gonna show it. It's a post from a woman. Was it Tumblr? She made this post, I believe.
I found it on Facebook. I thought it was hysterical, especially during Pride. I think it was on Tumblr originally, but like I just think and Julia will show it. But the gist of it is like somebody had posted something that was very like, derogatory.
I feel like we can say that. So it's somebody on Tumblr's name is like, we believe in you, Chris. So if you want to go, I guess they've already been trolled the heck out because of doing this.
Right. So whoever started it said, hey, being gay isn't a natural thing, because if you put like 3 islands in an ocean and one was straight people, one was gay people, and one was lesbians, then like within a year, a generation, 100 years or whatever it said, like the straight island would be the only island out there because the other 2 islands couldn't populate. And then what happened was all of the people, it's a very Reddit-like fashion, all of the people the thing about it is that people fought this belief with humor instead of with like being like, how dare you think that kind of stuff? Like, so like, the first person asked, well, where is this gay island located? Asking for a friend. And then like, people go on and they're like, why are we all separated into different islands? Did the government sanction us? If so, why? Why didn't we revolt? They're like, and it's a question of like, can the islands communicate with each other? Do the street people still stop having gay kids? Can you move the gay kids from one place to another? Like, why don't we? Like, it's just, how far apart are the islands? If they could travel to a gay island, would they be able to collect semen, return to lesbian island, and repopulate that island? Like, and it just people just went on and on with it. Like, and they start talking about, speaking up for the pansexual archipelago, I have these questions too. Then there's like the bisexual bay. And like everybody was just having like a blast, like saying how ridiculous this woman's post about the islands was.
It's it's one of those things where you're like, look, like even if that's your belief, like even if you think being gay is not natural, if you haven't figured out that posting something like that on the internet is not socially acceptable in 2020 and that you're going to get your butt trolled for posting something like that, like, I mean, but I guess those people at that point are so in their conviction. I don't know. Either way, it's one of those things where the way other people live their lives doesn't enrage me in the slightest.
Right.
So whenever somebody's enraged by the way other people are choosing to live their life, I'm a little bit baffled, because I'm like, well, if you don't want to be gay, then don't sleep with somebody of the same gender. It's not like contagious. I don't.
Right. It's that it goes back to this idea of expansiveness. Like, the world is a better place because there are all these options, because, you know, you can be gay or straight or pansexual or poly or bisexual or queer, or whatever, you know, label you want to use. Like, if you want to be an ace girl, but like 2020 is not the point where we should be like pointing fingers at people being like, this is wrong, because like we're past that, you know? Like,
exactly,
we're all good, like, you know.
You lost that fight, like, just
right.
Even if that's what you think, just shh. And I think honestly with our generation, especially the people that are 10, 15 years younger, there's this kind of, it's unacceptable to be intolerant of anything but intolerance. Do you know what I mean? It's like these one thing I think is amazing about like middle school now is there's a level of compassion in middle school kids that I didn't think could exist in 13, 14-year-old girls. Like, now it's considered not cool to bully. Like, why would you bully? That's not kind. And I'm like, Glee, what did you do to the world? You made it moving. Like, something shifted in our society where, like, how dare you bully the gay kid? Like, what's wrong with you?
How dare you bully anybody? I mean, you know, speaking of Glee, I know that one of their main stars just got torn up in the media because apparently she was not very nice to guest stars as they came on the show. And somebody somebody tweeted it out. It was a person of color, and apparently the dominoes fell, and like everybody, you know, came out after this woman just saying like, hey, I was bullied on that show too. Which like, it's just, I don't know, it's just such an outdated method these days. Like, that's the
however, I can think of, I mean, a handful of actresses that, like, off the top of my head, I know so many people that had terrible interactions with them that I'm like, yeah, that's, and they're celebrities and they're big names and they have TV shows, and you're like, how the hell did you get ahead in this world? Because if I'm mean to one person, nobody calls me back. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I've always been the person that, like, I'd rather be the nice person, like, to a fault almost. Like, that, like, I'd rather make everything fine than, like, standing up for myself. Because, like, in my opinion, everybody wins when we don't become crazy. Like, when we're not mean to each other, right? Like, you know, like, going to stats, like Keanu Reeves, apparently it's always been said that, like, he learns every member of the crew's name by the first day of the movie. And, like, you know, just the simple PAs, because those PAs are going to be somebody coming down the line. And I think he just does it because he's a nice person. It doesn't really matter to him that this person might be somebody someday, but that person will be somebody someday. And they are now, you know, and people remember the people who bullied you or were mean to you, you know?
Yeah. I talk about this a lot with the dancers that are younger. You know, now a lot of the girls who work for us are 21, 22, 23, like in their early 20s, and they're just kind of starting their career. And the stuff that a lot of these producers have the audacity to say to these beautiful, fit, and talented women just, one, blows my mind, but two, I'm like, do you not remember what it was like to be a performer? Do you not remember, like, all these girls are clearly working as hard, and they'll diet if you need them to, they'll do whatever, but do you have to be a jerk about it? Like,
right.
And I just, it blows my mind, because I'm like, what happened between you being a performer and you being a producer or director that all of a sudden you thought, like, do you remember when people were mean to you? Because it feels the same way to those girls. Like we've all had people say shitty things to us. And I just don't understand why when you're in a position of power, you choose to continue the abuse instead of creating a different environment. But
yeah. And like also like so when I was coming up as a young pup, as a performer, like I used to always look at situations and be like, I don't fit into this box. That's one of the reasons why I enjoyed burlesque, because like I could dance and be 5'3", because like, you know, in the world of dancing, and Julia, you understand because you're also a short person. We were in a short troupe together. So we got to, but like, you know, you had to be like 5'8", you were supposed to be of a certain weight and a certain height. But I watched Taylor Swift. There's a music video that my dad and I like that's from like some MTV Music Award, and she's surrounded by dancers and they're every shape out there. Like, it's not like you have to look like a Russian ballerina anymore to be a successful dancer and go on tour. You know, it's an aesthetic, don't get me wrong. And like, you know, if you're doing a line of firm bodies, if you're doing like a Moulin Rouge kind of style, you know, or like fantasy, like on the Strip, which is like girls with just stunning bodies, right? Like, and they're dancers, or the one that Jubilee Megan did. But there were all the other ones too. Like, if you want to be a dancer, you can be a dancer like at whatever size at this point, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything else. There's you know, we all were given this advice, and I think our job as kind of now moving into that like middle generation of performers that has younger girls below us, I think our job is to kind of like break that cycle and be like, look, we were taught a bunch of bullshit. Don't believe that bullshit. Create your own content, create your own stuff, do your own things, partner with good people. Like, don't work for assholes. Like, make different decisions, because the only way this industry is going to change, if someone tries to casting couch you, call their ass out. And you know, like, it's such a different world now than it was even 10 years ago when I moved to Hollywood, or, you know, 15 years ago when you moved to Hollywood. Like, it's just a completely different world.
Yeah.
And
pretty much you can't be as much of an asshole as you used to be, because there wasn't this, if you're an asshole, there's a backwash, and it might take a while for the backwash to happen. But like in this day and age, it's gonna happen. You know?
Yeah. So don't be a dick. And don't be a dick, especially if you're in a position.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick, especially if you're in a position of power. With that said, you found a really cute article. This has nothing to do with anything we are talking about.
No, this is just a happy article.
And I don't believe that Disneyland is opening up anytime soon. I think they were planning on opening and then are re-examining that plan because, you know, California is not having the smoothest reopening process. So, but you found, what are they, the best places to kiss in Disneyland?
Yeah. So I'm involved in a lot of very interesting Facebook groups. I've talked about this. And one of the ones that I have joined, which I joined like 6 months ago, is dating at Disney dating, pretty much. And it's people who are obsessed with dating. And like, it's really cute because and I just like to read it because it's like adorable, because people who really like Disney are usually very innocent people. A lot of times they're just a lot of like playful and childlike. So like people will post like, oh, what's the best place to kiss in, you know, Disneyland, which was one of the like moderators put it up. And so then I found what I figured was an article about it, because like, you know, you gotta wonder where would I want to make out. Number one was the Haunted Mansion.
Ooh, because you're just so scared. You gotta grab onto your partner.
Right. And you have to sit two in a thing too. Because it's an older ride. Like you get like and then of course there's like photo opportunities too. I will say, so the number 3 on this list is Pirates of the Caribbean. And on the Facebook page that I am a member of, somebody talked about getting a blowjob while they were on this ride, and it was apparently a full boat, which means they had to know exact places where it was dark enough that they could get. And I'm assuming they were in the back, right? They had to be the furthest place from the back. But I just thought that was very humorous as a choice. Also, I was like, I would have never thought of that. But that that gentleman said that was one of his shining moments of his life. Getting a live blowjob on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
I can I bet there's several people that have that story, though. I bet he's not the only gentleman.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. So they suggested, It's a Small World is also a great one. The teacups are adorable because they take, great pictures on that, and it's just innocent and cute. They do finish with Splash Mountain, which I think we all have heard that Splash Mountain is being retooled, sorry.
To be less racist.
To be less racist. And I have to say, I have had a comedy bit for years about how in the 90s somebody could be like, yes, we're going to take the most racist movie out there, which is so racist we don't allow it on VHS, right? They've never allowed it in home video.
Yeah.
Because it's so racist. But then a board of directors at Disney was like, yeah, let's base one of our biggest new attractions on this thing that we don't release. It makes no sense whatsoever. So they're going to re-sleeve it as the term they're using.
Well, it's probably a re-sleeving that's needed, because every time I go to Disneyland, I'm always like, what the heck? And I always think about it. When I'm there, I'm like, who thought this was appropriate? But at the same time, I ride the ride because I have a good time. So I think a re-sleeving might be in order. I know a lot of people are really upset about some of the changes that are happening and the things that are shifting, the monuments that are changing.
The flags that are changing.
In my opinion, if anything makes anybody else feel threatened, that's not the intent of the monument. So we need, or the ride or the flag. So we need to look at how we're using it. And I think that's, it doesn't, it doesn't offend me at all that they're going to retool it. I don't, I'm like, whatever. Yes, that probably should have been done 20, 30 years ago. Yeah.
When they started the ride. When they started the ride.
It's probably when it should have been done. So, But yeah, Disneyland's so fun. And I've actually never been there with a romantic partner. I think I would really like it. I think it'd be kind of fun to stand in line, and, we'll see when people are allowed to do that again. But I
have been to Disneyland with you, Julia.
Yes, I've been to Disneyland with you too, Kat. Oh, poor Kat. There's so many places that Kat has taken me that is beautiful and wonderful. And we get there and we get into some lovely setting, and I look over at her and I go,
it's so true. You say this all the time.
I was like, this would be so much better with a partner. And I'm like, it's not that Kat's not great, but sometimes I find ourselves in these super romantic settings where I'm like,
yes.
As much as I love Kat.
I know. Well, especially the wine tasting events, because as Julia said at the top of the show, I have a food and travel blog with my sister and a bunch of other members of my family. I rope everybody in to write for this food and travel blog after a while. Just, adventures. And sometimes I'm very lucky and I get comp trips or tourism bureaus reach out to me, and I've brought Julia to some of them in wine country, and she's like, it's so romantic.
It's so romantic.
We had
this gorgeous, this one was this gorgeous little cabin in this winery, that private cabin. What was that?
Yep.
What's the name of that? Holman
Ranch, and it is in Carmel Valley, and it's amazing.
What's that cute little Bavarian one too? Let's just give them a shout out while we're at it.
Absolutely. We did we stay at the Hoffa's house? Also?
Yes.
Hoffa's house.
Yes.
And then also what is that?
The really pretty, the hotel you're talking about?
Really, really pretty one. Yes. It's
yeah.
It's at the
I want to say it's like a Marriott or something.
It is like a Marriott or something, but I think it might be a Marriott. It's gorgeous, like, you know, and we've had some very lovely dinners, like bottles of wine overlooking the breaks, and like
it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and I'm very lucky to have a business partner who thinks of me and takes me on these trips. And I should not say things like that when we're there, but I do. You know? What can I say? I'm getting like the travel, like I just want to like go somewhere with somebody. You know what I mean? It's like I want a relationship to last long enough that I can plan like a 2-day trip. The relationship doesn't even need to go past the 2-day trip. Like I'm like, okay, if we can like get to a point where we like each other enough to where we feel confident we can spend 2 days on vacation together, I would be down with this. Because I'm like, I just want to like, my brother's in Cabo right now at some gorgeous resort with his partner that he got a great deal on. I'm like, I want to go to Cabo. Like, sounds lovely. I mean, gotta wear a mask and all that.
Right. Like, yeah. I mean, like, but we both do have trips coming up. Like, I'm flying out on Friday, and then you're flying out next month, right?
Yeah, but don't say where.
Friday is next month. Yeah, I won't say where. Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just don't say where.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I'm literally just going to my mom and my sister's house, but I'm like, it's new because I haven't been anywhere in forever. Like I barely go out as it is. I like might get in the car every like 10 days and go food shopping, you know. But like I'm not going to a gym. I'm not like going out to a bar or restaurant or a job, like, you know. So it's like I'm like, this is gonna be like an adventure. I feel like a little kid almost, like this is gonna be an airplane and you're gonna be
there with like hand sanitizer in one hand and your mask on, like I'm ready.
Oh my god. I'm such a nerd that I bought myself a book I'd wanted to read for a couple of years, and I was like, you are not allowed to read this till you get on the plane. Like this is your special treat for wearing your mask.
You will reward yourself with this book. Well, at least you like to read. Some people reward themselves with like hard drugs. So
it's true.
Literacy is better.
I know. And I'm so easy to please. Like my dad and I had like an amazing weekend. We made pizza and we watched like the next 2 movies. We're going through the MCU right now. Because he really has not seen all of them, and I am obsessed with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So like, you know, I'm like super geeked out, and I'm like, oh my god, you can't wait until we watch this one. You don't know what's gonna happen. It's like so crazy, and like this connects to this. I'm such a Dungeons and Dragon freak. Like not that I do D&D, but like I am like that nerdy person. So I'm like, ooh,
that's okay.
No, it's great. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that said, there'll probably be some interruptions to the podcast over the next month, but we do have some amazing guests that we will be talking with and doing podcasts with and that good stuff.
We have a lot of friends coming up too.
We do, people that we have long histories with, so you'll probably get more than our basic questions that we've been asking. We try to be polite with strangers. It's a little easier to dig deep with people that you've known for 7 years, you know?
I know. It's always fun when like when I was saying to Bendy Barbie that like, I'm like, I knew you when you had a mohawk, like, you know. It is always funny to know someone through their evolution as a performer too, because like sometimes you try on a lot of different shells before you figure out what your shtick is, you know, like where do you fit in the performer wheelhouse of things? And then like your friends are like, I remember when you did that. I remember when you were this type of person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no. It is fun. And if you want to see some amazing performers, you can always do that on our YouTube page, which is YouTube.com/WTT Burley. And you can also check out the videos online on our website, WTTburlesque.com, or find us on all the socials at WTT Burley. If you're listening to us in iTunes, please give us a rating and a like and all the good things, and let them know that you love learning about all these awesome leaders in the sex industry because it matters for the algorithm. It's how people find us.
Yeah, and it matters because, you know, overall, like, we do cool shit, so we deserve, like, you know, an emoji, a yes. You could just write yes. I'm not asking you to write the world. I'm just asking you to write like 3 letters. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
And here's the thing. We really love, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I really love the fact that we get to highlight entrepreneurs that are taking on an industry other people might consider taboo, because at the end of the day, being involved and being open to that side of my personality has brought so many blessings in my life. And I just wish it upon everybody. I wish everybody discovers and finds their weirdness and their kinks and all the things that make them exactly who they are. And I hope they feel safe expressing it.
Absolutely.
So that's why we're here. So we're not better than sex. We're working on it.
It's like an unattainable goal. It's like you're gonna get infinitely closer to it, but you're gonna slope up, but you'll never reach it. Which is some algebraic function that I can't remember the name of, but like
that's okay. College was a long time ago.
Right.
But I've been Julia Reed Nichols.
I have been Kitty Cat DeMille.
And we're going to come back soon with more fun, sexy stories and great guests. But until then, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.